Hello, friends, and thank you for joining me again. Today, I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind for a few days, and it's recognizing that you're in a relationship with a Christian narcissist. If you have not already, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel and get the word out. There are not very many narcissistic abuse support channels from a Christian perspective, so we do need to get the word out and share this information with people so that we can help people that are confused and struggling in very hurtful, toxic relationships who are Christians, who many times feel conflicted about leaving their situation. So these are just some of the signs that I have discovered through being married to a Christian, and I put that in air quotes, narcissist. As you may know from previous videos, I was just recently divorced last year from a man who was diagnosed as a narcissist, and he also not only professed to be a Christian when he was with me, he is still professing that. Now, when I was with him, he pretended to be a Catholic because I'm a Catholic. And from what I know, and yes, even though I'm no contact with him, I have had to do a little bit of reconnaissance on him simply for my divorce. And I have found out he is now in a new relationship with a Southern Baptist. So guess what? Now he's a Southern Baptist. So that's just what they do. So here are some of the signs that you're in a relationship with a Christian narcissist. And this is going to be from a romantic partner perspective. The overarching thing you're going to notice is that their behavior does not match what they profess. So whatever they're professing their beliefs to be, their behavior is going to be completely different or opposite. Number one, they don't practice chastity. So what does chastity mean? Chastity is a word that means engaging only in sexual or intimate physical acts with someone that's appropriate to your state in life. So what we're talking about is you only have sex or physical intimacy, I should say, because that's more than just sex, when you're married to someone. When you're not married to them, you don't engage in those behaviors because they're not appropriate. And again, this channel is for Christians, and so if you don't believe that premarital sex is wrong, then this information really doesn't apply to you. Okay, so a Christian narcissist, they're not going to practice chastity. And the way that you're going to see that manifest is there's going to be pressure for premarital sex, and they're going to act very seductive. Now, this definitely happened with my ex-husband, and in my attempts to get him to understand that it was not appropriate. Yes, we were engaged, but we were not married at the time. He got very angry at me, and he would lecture me for long periods of time how it wasn't right, and that he knows that in God's eyes we were already married, and that he felt in his heart that it wasn't wrong. Okay, so this is a person who was professing to be a traditional Catholic who believed in the teachings of the church, yet he was saying that he knew in his heart God didn't think it was wrong. And that caused a lot of problems between us. Number two, an interest in sodomy or other disgusting sexual acts. So my ex-husband never came right out and said, hey, I want to do ... to you, but he would make jokes and references to things, but then he'd kind of circle back around with, yeah, that's really gross, but he seemed to want to push the envelope to see if I was even open to talking about it, and so he definitely was testing the waters, and obviously I am absolutely not going to do those things. So, but now other people may have experience where the person actually tried to engage in these activities, but like I said, I got pressure. It was subtle. where he would mock and criticize people that were closed-minded and things like that, like he would mock them. The next one uses pornography. This one's self-explanatory. I never actually caught my husband using pornography, and that was something that he really, really, really railed against. He would criticize other people for looking at porn. But I will say this, that um, he didn't have a lot of access to it, and I had a lot of filters and whatnot on our internet connection. So even if he had, and he didn't have a smartphone, I mean, he could have, you can always track things down, and I know that. But what I did find is that he would watch movies, what are known as grindcore movies, like rated NC-17 type movies in the middle of the night, because we have Roku and so you can watch them. But he would do that, or he'd be out in his office building by himself on the weekends, and he'd watch these movies when he thought no one was around, and he'd lock the door. And if you don't know what grindcore is, it's basically a lot of movies where there's um, extreme violence against women in the movie, where a lot of times the women are gang raped and things like that. They don't actually show the act, but you can tell from you can tell that it's in the scene, even if you don't actually see what's happening. You can hear the sounds, and you know what's happening. So he would watch things like that, which is kind of like the poor man's porn. The other thing is habitual masturbation. I'm not even going to get into what that means, and I'm not going to say that my ex-husband, I know for sure, was doing those things, but I always had my suspicions. Um, and next, flirts with others or has inappropriate friendships. My ex-husband definitely did these kind of things. He did it primarily through social media, and the reason why I know that is that um, he gave me his login information to help with managing his business. And so I had his social media passwords, and so I was able to get in. And because I did suspect that he was doing something, it's just like a gut instinct. I did check and see that yes, there were women that he was definitely crossing a line with and getting flirty with on Facebook. But because the women were unattractive, I didn't feel threatened by it. But I don't really, in retrospect, I realize that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if the woman was 70 years old and ugly. That's wrong when you're married. You shouldn't be doing that. So, anyway, or like inappropriate friendships. Now, when you're a married person, unless someone is almost like a family member, they should not be spending a lot of time alone with friends of the opposite sex. It should be like a group thing, and they certainly shouldn't be having lengthy emotional phone conversations. They shouldn't be turning to a friend of the opposite sex when you're having marriage problems. That's a definite red flag that there's an emotional attachment. The next thing that a Christian narcissist will do is they are immoral or immodest in their behavior. So they could dress provocative. So that might more relate to a woman, but men can do that through wearing tight jeans and or wearing men might wear like muscle shirts if they have a good physique and they work out, or men can even wear like short shorts and tight clothes. um, Uses excessive profanity or vulgar humor. That definitely was my ex-husband. There's no doubt about that. And he wouldn't use profanity when he was angry. He would just use it in just like day-to-day conversation. And he had very vulgar humor, which is very shocking because I didn't see that side of him until after we were married. He hid that from me. The next thing is listens to blasphemous music. Now, my ex-husband he's really into like country music and things like that, and a lot of instrumentals, so that doesn't apply to him. But there's a lot of people that listen to like really disgusting heavy metal music that's like blasphemous or like very explicit rap music. Like no Christian would listen to music like that. The next thing is attends degenerate artistic performances or events. So like concerts, festivals, shows, plays, anything like that where it's like a live performance where either the performers are dressed inappropriately in revealing clothing, or the other people in the audience are going to be dressed like that, like at a music festival or a concert. One time my husband took me to a play, and there's no doubt that he knew the play would be inappropriate because the word sex was in the title of the play. And the play, I mean, yes, it was a comedy, but it was all about a bunch of people who weren't married having sex with one another. And it just like, I was very miserable at the play, and he acted so dumb, like, oh, I didn't know you wouldn't like this. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The next thing is, even though they claim to be a very devout Christian, they have no prayer life. So now we're kind of getting to the real core of knowing that someone is not a real Christian. And if they hold themselves out to be, it's probably because they're a narcissist. Because these are things that really can't be faked. So someone who has no prayer life, they can't recite common prayers from memory. They've never even memorized like the Our Father prayer. That's like the most basic prayer that a Christian must know. And if the person can't even recite it from memory, that tells you a lot right there that they don't pray very often. Another thing is, and again, yes, that was my husband professing to be this very devout man, a good Catholic, but like he didn't know any prayers. He didn't know the Our Father prayer, the prayers of the Rosary, nothing like that. The next thing is they don't say grace before meals. Again, that's my husband, did not say grace before meals. And that's a basic thing that all Christians do. And I noticed that after a while, once he learned the prayers, he'd say it at home, but he didn't want to say it out in public. So sometimes he would say it when we were out in public, and then depending on what type of restaurant it was, he wouldn't. It's like, I just do it no matter where I'm at. But yeah, he would not consistently, and I think it had to do with whoever he thought might be watching. The next thing is they won't join in with the family prayers. So a Christian family has daily prayers that they say together as a family. It's usually in the evening, but a narcissistic um, Christian person is not real eager to join in because they see that as a waste of time, because they really don't believe in prayer because they don't actually believe in God. And so why would they waste an hour of their life doing something, praying to someone that they don't even believe exists? They can think of a lot of other things they'd rather be doing. So now in my case with my ex-husband, he would join in with family prayers only if he wasn't mad at me, which, he was mad at me so many times every week. And to this day, I still don't know what he was mad about. Probably because it was not that he was mad about anything. He was just trying to get power and control over me by acting like he was upset, thinking I would run after him. But that was one of the ways he'd let me know that he was mad at me again, is he wouldn't join in family prayers. So it's almost like he was using that to abuse me. The next thing is they go to church for social reasons only, and I'm going to get into a little more detail in a few minutes about that, but this is the person that, they use church going as more of a social event because of they want to be seen in the community. But when they're at church, they're actually not praying during the service. They're not really there to worship God. They're there to kind of worship themselves and build up their presence in the community, to make sure everybody knows they were there. Next is doesn't acknowledge their sins or make retribution for them. So this is definitely a narcissist right there. They're because they don't have a accountability for their behavior. They're not going to acknowledge when they do something you don't like. They're never going to acknowledge that they were wrong, that it was wrong. They're never going to call it a sin. They may acknowledge that you didn't like it, but that's just because you're, too sensitive. And yeah, I feel, I'm sorry that you feel bad. That's like the narcissist apology. I'm sorry that you're upset, but they're not going to say I did wrong. That offends God and that's a sin and I'm sorry. And they're definitely not going to, make any retribution. They're not going to go to confession. They're not going to try to make amends. They're not going to pay restitution if they damaged property or whatnot. That's just not going to happen. And, even if they got sued in civil court and there was a judgment against them, I think it would be very difficult to get them to pay the judgment. Okay, so next is they have little knowledge of doctrine or scripture. So all Christianity is based on doctrine that we find in the Bible. And for Christians, doctrine is important because it outlines what we believe. And, even in the times of Jesus, he taught very clearly doctrine. He was always quoting from the Old Testament because that was the doctrine at that time. And so knowing doctrine is very important, and we're admonished many times in Scripture to not be ignorant of God's teachings. And so the narcissist, because they don't believe in God, therefore they don't believe in really doing any work that's required of the Christian to know, love, and serve God. So, unless they become a preacher or something, and that's part of their whole persona, their mask, they're not going to have a deep understanding of these things. And for instance, they can't recite the Ten Commandments. So a Christian narcissist, they might get a couple of them right, but they're not going to be able to recite all 10 of them, which means they couldn't teach their kids the 10 Commandments. Therefore, they're not going to live the 10 Commandments because they don't even know what they are. They don't know the basics of faith. Like, they don't know what the Trinity is. They don't know the names of the 12 apostles, and they don't know the holy days of the church calendar. And there's a reason why they don't dedicate themselves to these things, is because they can remain unaccountable if they don't know. Well, I don't have to acknowledge this holy day. Oh, Good Friday, I'm supposed to fast. Oh, well, I don't know what day that is, and so I don't have to do it. Another thing is they regularly make statements that contradict Scripture. So you're going to see this one a lot because they're just going to make things up. Like saying things like, well, Jesus says it's okay to put away your wife, And yes, I have been divorced, but my divorces were all annulled in the church because they were not Christian marriages. So, but I mean, putting away your wife because you want to marry another woman, that was the example that was given in the Gospels. Stuff like that is wrong, and they'll say like, oh, well, it's okay if you fall out of love because Scripture says it's okay to put away your wife. The next thing is they claim that sinful behavior is okay because it's not specifically forbidden by the commandment. So it's like, well, where does it say in the Bible that looking at internet pornography is wrong? Where does it say in the Bible that drinking wild turkey is a sin? Where does it say in the Bible that I can't mow my grass on Sunday? They do things like that. It's like very legalistic, and it's the behavior that the Pharisees would use. Or where does it say in the Bible that I can't have a drink with this woman at the bar? It's things like that. And lastly, can't defend their faith to other people. Why? Because they don't know it, and so they can't defend it. So it's really easy to expose that they don't have a deep understanding of their faith. I mean, I used to do that to my husband because I falsely thought it would motivate him to learn, but of course he was a narcissist, so it didn't work that way. The next thing is they don't hold themselves to the same standards as they hold others. Okay, this is classic narcissist behavior, but how does it manifest as a Christian? Well, one, they'll work on Sundays. So yeah, my ex-husband, he would criticize the neighbors for cutting their grass on Sunday, and then he'd go out and do it and claim, oh, well, but I have to work tomorrow, so I can't do it, and it's gonna rain. And then, I mean, he did it because he thought it would upset me. That's why he did it. And it's like, no, it doesn't upset me because God's going to hold you accountable for that, not me. It's not my job to make sure you follow the Ten Commandments. Next is they may break the abstinence or fasting laws by claiming that they forgot or they didn't know. So yeah, my husband used to do this a lot. Well, I didn't know that you're not supposed to eat meat on Fridays. Okay, the whole civilized world knows that Catholics don't eat meat on Fridays. I mean, even McDonald's knows this, like, where they put their filet of fish sandwiches on sale 2 for 1 on Fridays. So I figure if the Golden Arches is aware of it, the man that claims he's Catholic is aware of it. But that could apply to a lot of different religions, but I'm just saying specifically because many Christians do fast during Lent, which it is right now, but the narcissists, they'll claim that they forgot all about it or didn't know that they had to. Next thing is that the Christian narcissists, they criticize others for immoral conduct, but they secretly do it themselves. So again, the example I gave of my husband watching those filthy movies, while they were technically not X-rated, they were certainly pornographic from a Christian perspective. They were completely disgusting and inappropriate, but criticizing others. Or again, the example I gave, he would criticize our neighbors for cutting their grass on Sunday, but then he would go out and do it and say, yeah, but I have to because I don't have time to do it tomorrow. It's like, well, why didn't you do it on Saturday? He would criticize men. Like a couple of times we went to like a New Year's Eve dance, and he criticized some of the men there that we knew that were dancing with women other than their wives. And it's just like, it was just like a social thing. But he would criticize them, yet he was secretly going behind my back and flirting with other women, and he had women texting him and things like that. And it's like in the middle of the night, it's like, no, customers don't text you at 3 in the morning. So anyway, avoid Sunday church attendance without a good reason. So they'll come up with any old excuse like, oh, I'm not going to church because I'm mad at you. So that was one that my ex-husband used to do a lot. Like if he was quote unquote mad at me yet again for something that I never knew what he was mad about, he just wouldn't go to mass with us on Sunday. And I never got an explanation, was never told why. It was just, I guess it was just a punishment for some reason. Or they'll come up with, oh, I've got a headache, or, one time he didn't want to go to mass because he says, well, my son's going to call me and I've got to be here for his call. And it's just like, you're talking about 1 hour out of the whole day, and can't the guy leave a voicemail? And of course, his son never did call that day. The last one I came up with is they use church membership as a social enhancement rather than a spiritual a tool on their spiritual journey. So, like, for instance, holding a position of prestige or authority in the church, but then they break the rules themselves. Okay, this is definitely my husband. I'm not really going to say what he did at the church, but, like, let's just say he would be considered like one of the elders of the church. And he really exaggerated his authority, and he made it, he'd be all puffed up and, oh, look at me, I'm doing this. Yet, he would break rules. He would bring firearms into the church, which is against federal law. And this is someone that was always preaching about gun laws and whatnot. But he would break that rule. He'd get upset if someone else, somebody was walking around the church parking lot during services, and he got upset about that. But this guy was, violating federal law by bringing a gun into the church. They use church membership to avoid accountability. So, like, oh, well, I don't actually have to be in during the service because I'm guarding the parking lot. So, I don't have to actually worship here. I'm here, I'm worshiping in my own way by patrolling the parking lot. Or other things like, well, I'm a deacon or I'm the pastor, so I don't have to be held to those same standards. Posts a lot of photos of themselves in church settings on social media. So taking selfies of themselves, here I am at church and it was so blessed. And here I am again the next week at church, and here I am, helping these people. So there's a lot of social media activity showing their church attendance and the things they do at church, but it there's no commensurate worship that's actually going on. Exaggerates their church authority to others. So if they've got some kind of position with the church, they're going to exaggerate to other people that they actually have authority. You know, someone who's an usher at a church all of a sudden is a security guard or something like that. So I hope that this was helpful. I know that there's other things that I could have thought of or that you can think of where you've had dealings with Christian narcissists. And if you'd like to, put them in the comments below, because the conversation is really important. I think it's helpful that we talk more about what is a Christian narcissist, because this is really confusing. There's so many people that are in particularly these marriages, and they feel guilty or feel like it's wrong to leave the marriage when they're being abused. And I can speak to this myself. Being advised by your pastor or your priest that you have to stay in the marriage and make the best of it when you're being abused or your children are being abused, hello, that's not, I know that's not the teaching of the Catholic Church, and I assume it's not the teaching of other Christian churches. It's not in the Bible. The Bible does not say you have to do that. So, um, just, like I said, post in the comments below. It's great if people are helping each other in the comments, coaching one another and whatnot. If you need help with a particular situation you're in, or going no contact, you want to learn how to do the right no contact, please reach out to me. You can send me an email at don'tfeedthenarc@gmail.com. And I'm also available to do some coaching if that's something you're interested in. And I really, really appreciate you listening today. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with others if you found the content helpful. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.